We are bringing Kool-Aid in 3, 2, 1. You're listening to the Guardian Hub.
You're listening to the Guardian Hub.
You're listening to the Guardian Hub.
You are listening to the Guardian Hub. The best
hub on the net.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to episode 262 of the Guardian Hub podcast, where we don't bring Kool-Aid to you, but we do talk about Destiny, Season of the Wish, and hey, we are almost done here, getting close to, what were you calling this, final shape? I was playing on light earlier. Oh, yeah!
I was promised Kool-Aid. This is bullshit.
Sin, did you bring the Kool-Aid?
No, but Nate Fu did in the chat.
We do have Kool-Aid in the chat, and that reminds me, well, I don't know why I was thinking Kool-Aid and then Jello and then Jello shots. I know that's a stretch, but
not really. It's not much of a stretch.
It's not much, yeah.
There's not much of a difference between Kool-Aid and Jello.
Kool-Aid and Jello. Okay, good. I wasn't the only one thinking that then.
No, you're not far off.
They both come in a, powdered form. You add water and you're pretty much done. One requires heat, the other is cold.
Can you imagine if like regular Kool-Aid and it's not entirely cold and it starts coagulating in the cup?
Oh,
Jesus.
Gross.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks for that.
You ever had those Jello shots that are just like too rubbery? Like,
nope. So I've only had Jello shots.
Why are you letting them like float around in your mouth that long that you know they're rubbery?
Normally after 2, I don't really care.
Wait, why are you even using the word float?
Right? I'm so confused here, Sam. Like,
maybe you tried to chew on it right away.
Kato, we all know you got to take him down your throat.
Oh, God.
Oh, Jesus. There we go. Already derailed.
Do we got to let it soak or float, Sin?
I'm going to need more alcohol.
Yeah, we're not in After Dark exactly, but we can skirt around those edges somewhat, especially with Sin here.
Okay.
I was gonna say how everyone's doing. Sin, how you been? My man, Mr. Floater, Soaker, whatever.
All of the above. Exhausted. And yeah, that's about it. I'm just exhausted every day of my life.
Every day of your life. But hopefully you have some occasions to play video games to relax a little bit. I know we did last night for a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, I'm popping Destiny open right now.
Good.
Of course you are.
We wouldn't want you to lie. Rodimus, have you had any desire to do Destiny stuff lately?
No. I did log in. I get my break. I did the Whisper, or not the Whisper mission, the Outbreak mission, running around from Trevor. I still need to go find Archie this week, but other than that, I did the storyline this week just to talk about it. I am highly disappointed in it. We can talk about that later.
Wait, hold on. You're like, no, and you listed like 3 different things you did.
But I did that for like 10 minutes. It took me 10 minutes to do all of that.
Fair.
Maybe 20 if with the mission, but that's about it.
I haven't played much either, except for those things you mentioned. And this week, I haven't done Pantheon at all yet. So yeah, I mean, well, we didn't record last week. Also, we can talk about things if we want. But yeah,
we got a lot of catching up.
Yes, and we'll want to talk about that mission a little bit, and then some of the stuff that came out. I mean, there's a lot, so I think we're just going to kind of go around the horn and see what people want to talk about tonight. But real quick, RNG, how's it going? And doing stuff in Destiny?
Like Rodimus, I jumped on Tuesday and did the story and got my bright dust and sat around the tower for a while and then said, all right, I'm good. I'm going back to do something else, and got off of Destiny.
Yeah, I mean, we're all most likely all of us here will be playing it a bunch in a couple weeks here, week and a half now at this point.
I'm just jumping on now to spin legendary shards.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Buy your raid banners or whatever else you want to do with those things.
Mhm.
That's right. They
Exactly.
go away, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess I
2
should
weeks.
That's
do that.
reminding me to do that right now. And Kato, what's new? I was going to ask you, I know it's a silly question about weather, but there's been some crazy things in your areas. Everything been okay the last week or two?
We've been pretty lucky where I'm at. Actually, the town where I work was like half the town was without power for a couple of days because of the weather. We had 80-mile-an-hour winds, gusting closer to 100. It was some pretty severe weather. We got like 30 minutes of it. So,
You didn't have to click your heels to go home.
yeah, it's that time of year here. Like, it's just kind of how it is. It's very hit and miss. Sometimes we'll get severe weather, and sometimes it's just nothing. Just blows over us.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you are not without power for very long, and
Yeah,
everything in your area is okay.
we're pretty lucky so far this year, which is good.
All right. Well, where should we?
Another month of it, we'll be out of it. So,
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering where we should start tonight, and maybe we'll just start with the story mission real quick. Why not, right? And the cutscene, and I mean that's kind of the biggest news of what's in the game, and then of course we can talk about other things we've been doing or all the news that they're presenting to us.
Here, Rodimus' hot take on the mission.
Yes, Rodimus, I
Motherfucker
am
should have shot
curious.
his ass in the head.
I
That's
knew
what
that's
I
where you were going.
Okay.
I knew that's where you were going.
should have shot his ass in the head.
He's gonna demon the next Hunter Vanguard, man. Come on.
It doesn't matter. He didn't kill his ghost. I still would have shot his ass.
Look, I respect that opinion, and I'm kind of surprised. I know a lot of people were kind of like placing bets or giving opinions on what would happen when this went down. I didn't think we were going to get it now. I thought this would be happening in final shape.
Yeah,
but it happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, look, we usually talk about things within like a week after.
It'll be out a week. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So who should have shot who, Rodimus?
Oh, Crow should have shot that motherfucking whiny bitch ass that hides in the
Wait.
back of the tower.
You mean Cade should have
Cade,
shot?
sorry. They're all hunters. I don't care.
He's saying Crow should have shot himself.
Yes. Cade
Crow
should have shot
shot
him because all he does is whine in the back of the helm. Oh, woe was me. There's no whining in Destiny.
There's a lot of whining in Destiny. If you haven't been paying attention,
if anyone's been paying attention at all to Bungie's kind of arc with this character and how Bungie likes to play things, you shouldn't be surprised. That being said, I can respect people wanting to see him shot. A lot of people would say like, oh, maybe it would happen once and then they get past it or whatever.
that's what I was hoping for.
No, I would have
At
continually
all.
just shot him over and over and over again.
Wait,
Forever.
Oh, you're dead? Here you go.
Oh,
Dead
fix that.
What do you think, Sin? What would you have done? What would Sin do?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't think I have the same affinity for like everybody else when it comes to that. Crow is whiny. I'll give you that. Crow is definitely whiny, but I don't know. The scene in general, I thought was good. I mean, at that point, you're trying to face the witness. Why would you kill him? Especially when you realize he's a guardian, which Cade did.
yeah, he was going to. You
Until the
could see
ghost
that
popped
trigger
out,
finger
yeah.
just starting to squeeze, and then he stopped because the ghost came out. Like, come on.
He's a bitch for stopping too.
Yeah. Like, I disagree. I was a
my
little
opinion's-
disappointed he missed his shots to begin with. Like,
Yeah. Keyword.
That's
I mean, he was a little
interesting, yeah.
rusty.
Yeah.
Is he
I mean,
not?
is he though?
Yeah. Well, how long has he been there? Has he been doing nothing? And then all of a sudden he just Crow shows up and that's the first thing he does. I don't know. But I don't know. I understand why people think Crow's whiny, but I think this is a character. To me, I didn't see it that way. It was a character where went through this crazy arc. But also, I think Cade should have shot him once.
At least.
And then get past it quickly, right? And then whatever.
10
Yeah.
would have been the minimum.
Well, it'd been nice to see Kate shoot him once and not knowing he was a guardian, and he comes back.
Yeah,
You
right.
know?
And then have some
Yeah.
dramatic showdown, and then they're like, "Wait, what are we doing?" Because some crazy thing distracts them to the side, and then they start working together.
No.
Something.
Well,
Mhm.
anyways, that happened. What's also interesting is, I'm now out of spaces for raid banners. I still have so many legendary shards to use, but I can't. Oh well.
Yeah, I've got like 2 more spaces in my consumables. I've got 2 stacks of 100.
Go ahead and
Is-
delete all the other previous seasonal material out of there because you know you're not going back.
Oh, I
and doing
know.
it.
The Witch's Key, the Deep Dive
Yeah.
Key. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was
the
looking
problem with
at that.
that is the stupid offerings you can't delete as a stack.
No, you got to do them one at a damn time, and I hate that.
I know. I'm not going
Yeah.
to delete anything sin that's going to be one at a time, but I have maybe 1 or 2 things here I could delete. I don't know. I have like 400 now. That may be enough.
For a while.
I'm just gonna sit here and buy raid banners. Anyways,
Yeah. The mission too. Kind of cool. I mean, look,
kind of
I don't
lame.
even think they should redo old content too much, but the thing that I liked about it was they really did take us full circle on what this Black Heart thing was. And we were kind of learning about this already in the last year's expansion and how, the hearing about how the Vex, the Black Heart was a failed simulation of
Veil.
The Veil.
I mean,
That's
that
the
part was okay, but as far as the mission, I don't know.
Oh no, it just killed me when you get there to it, and Osiris is like, destroy that thing. It's like, do we really know what the fuck? I mean, yes, it looks just like it did from D1, but do we really know if we destroy it, what's going to happen? I mean, why is it back? You're not,
Well,
just
so
kill it,
the Vex were using it to block us from going to the Traveler.
Yeah,
essentially
but
is
that
what it
wasn't
boils down to.
said till after you killed it, is what I'm saying.
What's also interesting is we are
Like-
even more powerful now than in D1, and it's like, don't you think the Vex? Now they did make it a little bit harder. We didn't have wyverns in D1, and I don't know if all the
Exactly.
harpies were in the air, but I don't know. They could have. No, they can't really, because story missions they got to make them kind of easily soloable by most average players. But I don't know. The Vex didn't seem to really doing much of a better job than what they did the first time. They
Yeah.
had the Black Art.
True.
We were really stopped, let me tell you.
We were stopped hard.
But it was fun, kind of, to see that play space again in better resolution and just bring back some memories where I remember running through that solo when I first started Destiny and having to hide down below because that mission was potentially hard if you were just barely starting the game and got there too quickly without leveling up a lot.
Yeah.
And
I
now it's
wouldn't
like
know.
nothing. That wasn't even the best of all the D1 missions, but it was just the vanilla one, but for sure. All right. Well, Crow is in the Traveler. Cade is in the Traveler. I read an article that's saying that it does seem like we kind of have an assumption now that this isn't just a memory of Cade. It really is just some place where people can go afterwards, or did I misunderstand that? I don't know if Cade can come out, but what I'm saying is I don't know. And it's a fine line. Who cares really? But some people are saying it's just going to be like a memory of Cade, but this is maybe more literally an afterlife of Cade.
But the question is, if he's
think
there,
it's-
who else could be there?
Right.
Yeah.
What other guardians could be there that we?
Rabathun.
Well,
Well, no, because her
I
ghost
guess
is still
not.
alive.
That's true.
but could potentially people come out, especially if we do some crazy magical thing? We have prismatic, we defeat the witness. We're gonna be in there, and we're not staying there forever, probably.
Mm.
So does
Well-
Cade have the ability to be with us full time now? I guess is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think he can leave the Pale Heart. The thing about like being in the Traveler and the Pale Heart and all that is it's more about, I guess, they're not technically in the Pale Heart. They're in that in between space.
Mhm.
But can you guys think of any other Guardians that had their like ghost destroyed and then killed?
I was just gonna ask, is there any other Guardians out there that had their ghost destroyed and got another ghost? In the lore
In the
somewhere?
lore, yes, I want to say there is. This is not.
So there's a
not my
possibility
department.
the Traveler might just give Cade another ghost. Aren't the ghosts tied to the Traveler?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
There's that possibility he might
is-
get another ghost. Now, if he would take fucking Crow's ghost, it'd be even better. But
Actually,
Back to
yes, there
Give-
is a
give it up,
situation in the lore where there's like a guardian using somebody else's ghost, and it has to do with like the thorn and last word and all of that lore
Dredge
right
and
there.
Lure, wasn't it? Or
It wasn't Dredge and Yor, it was one of the others in there.
gotcha.
It was super weird, like, and interesting, but yeah. It's been too long. But it's like there is a possibility that Osiris could find another ghost, but he probably won't. But as far as like, I cannot think of anybody anybody else that had their ghost killed and they themselves were killed.
I guess
Yeah,
we'll see.
it's interesting.
It's like for there to be a surprise somewhere in there that we don't know about.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
Don't bring it out in the cutscene. Don't bring it out in some Vidoc and ruin it. That's the
Right.
still thing that pissed me off with Forsaken. It's like, okay, we know Cade was going to die. It's like, I feel like they could have hidden that better. I still feel like they could have hidden that a lot better.
Well, we knew somebody was gonna die.
Right, I knew that, but at least they could have done better with it. Is what I'm getting at.
Oh, I agree.
all right. Should we move on to the Vidoc?
Yep.
It was fairly short, which I have no complaints about. They're going to have a part 2 tomorrow, as when we're recording this on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And I feel like the main purpose of this was to show us the environment.
Yeah, I think so.
I missed a little bit at the very beginning, but I sure just kind of had a pretty cool feel for what they're going with. And I know some of these places we've seen some scenes and shots and videos, but with them explaining to us really what they're going for, it really just hits home more. And I'm curious what you all think about some of these weird things, but they said they're trying to take what's familiar and then add like weirdness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Hands as trees.
Hands as trees. And it
Holding
was
up the
interesting about that.
bridge.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bridge with hands underneath. They were saying that they didn't want like body parts to be like horror style, but we still want a creepy feel. And so I guess they were trying to get enough of a feel without being like horror or whatever. But I don't know. Do the hands freak any of you guys out seeing that?
No.
I could see
Maybe
Sin
if they
being
were
like,
feet.
Sin, you're afraid of the hands, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man, yeah, like hands underneath the freeway bridge, like in the original area. Hands as trees. I really think it's interesting. A huge ghost like down on the ground in that area too. That'd be really cool if we can go in there if there's like some lost sector or something. But I just love that. Like it's familiar. Like ghosts are usually like these small things, and there's going to be a huge ghost just laying on the ground. It looked like out in that area.
Yeah, I gotta go back and watch the video again. I skimmed through it at work. I need to actually go back and watch it and pay a little more attention to it. It was. Go ahead.
They keep showing us like, okay, we spawned at this point, and like the Travelers Mount Doom is off in the distance,
Yeah.
and it's like this huge area. They keep telling us that, but I'm still skeptical. Like, we all know when we get these zones, sometimes they may look large at first, but only certain areas are actually explorable. I hope they give us huge areas this time around, like really huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
If we get more space than we did in Lightfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like the Vidoc here, and was it Keith David speak as Zavala for the first time?
Yeah.
First time we've kind of heard his voice, and I
Dude,
mean,
it's
I
so
think he's
weird.
going to do a very good job. It didn't sound to me much different from Lance Reddick, I mean,
It's amazing. Yeah.
And the hearing the witness talk, that was
Yep.
cool too. Yeah.
Yep. And seeing more about the Dread and kind of,
Yeah, how they made the sounds of them.
yeah.
Squishing jelly.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. I was gonna have to miss the whole thing. I would have watched it anyways. I had a meeting, but then that meeting got canceled, and I popped in like 3 minutes after it started. But it's pretty cool, and I'm surprised they're doing another one tomorrow. And then we've had all these info drops. I don't even remember what was last week, but then we have like 3 articles this week.
Last week was weapon tuning was the big one.
That's right. Yeah.
Then that showcased 3 new exotic weapons we're getting. That showcased 3 exotic armor pieces and videos, and then they did short little snippets of the other exotics we're getting per subclass. So,
Any interesting things on that you wanted to mention? I don't even remember.
I mean,
myself.
the Kavazov coming back as an exotic weapon with the bullet,
so we have
with a bullet that ricochets.
Every 7th round it ricochets, which is kind of cool.
One a sniper rifle that looked like a golden gun or something when it.
Yes, so there's going to be
a
golden gun sniper, which would be cool. There's another trace rifle.
Yeah, that's right. Heavy trace rifle.
Oh, it's heavy? I didn't see that.
I think it said heavy.
I think it did. But then they're also, I'm remembering how they're buffing trace rifles in general.
Yeah, they're making some changes to quite a few weapons. The big takeaway is Graviton, Sunshot, Polaris Lance, Trinity Ghoul are all getting a AoE nerf, actually. I'm getting a damage reduction on their AoE effects. So
bastards.
Buffing,
how they gotta do that to my Sunshot? Leave it alone. That's
they're
my
buffing,
baby.
They're buffing certain archetypes. Pulses are getting a buff. It's a lot. Go find it. Go read it.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I couldn't keep up with it or remember it all.
Right.
Yeah.
That was last week.
Okay, that was last week. This week we had 2 articles and the TWID.
Yeah.
Again, real quick, whatever people want to go through, I'm kind of pulling this up myself. Oh yeah, the abilities one. Well, I'm sure we'll want to talk about that a little bit.
Abilities and exotic armor tuning. Armor tuning.
So armor tuning, start there. They're changing certain armors that were subclass specific to be super specific so that they function with prismatic. I am not going over this list for each class. It's kind of the powered melee is getting a change because certain subclasses like combination blow and knockout allow players to circumvent the cost of these. So that's changing. Exotic armor is going to get the artifice treatment. So be able to get that +3 stat and whatever you want to help round out your builds. Ammo Finder is getting an update. Raid armor mods are getting a change to raid mods will now have a 0 cost.
Excellent.
So one thing to note is the exotic artifice upgrade will cost you exotic cipher and 10,000 glimmer.
So like you
Which-
upgrade it, but then they're free, right? Or do they take the 3 still?
Well, yeah. So it'll be, you have to masterwork like normal.
Yep.
As far as what I'm seeing. So, and then the exotic cipher and 10,000 glimmer get you the +3 stat.
Okay. Perfect. It gets you the 3, not it costs. That's right. At one point they even cost some, but then they went free, but you had to have the artifice armor. That's right. Okay.
So, well, that was the change. The artifice armor used to give you the extra mod slot for artifact mods.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was really nice because it allowed you to fit more champion mods. But then they gave us intrinsic champion mods per subclass. So they got rid of that aspect and just made the artifact mods a thing without having to socket them. So it's a nice change, but the +3 is kind of could be better, honestly. Like it'd be nice if it was +4 instead of +3. But
Yeah.
Okay, that was all armor tuning that I'm gonna go over. Ability tuning. This was a big topic. Stasis is getting thrust armor. Great. Functions like woven mail or void overshield, essentially.
Stasis is getting a lot of love.
Yeah, Stasis is finally getting some reworks, and I'm here for it. Changes for each subclass. The big one, Well of Radiance and Ward of Dawn changes. Well of Radiance will now grant Radiant for 8 seconds when players exit the well. They have reduced survivability while standing in the well. Reduced healing per second from 100 down to 50, which matches restoration ×2. Increased heal on cast from 40 to 300 health points. Reduced damage resistance for non-boss combatants from 40 to 20, or 40% to 20%. Reduced damage resistance for boss combatants from 40% to 10%. They do note that the damage resistance for other players is unchanged, so no change in PvP. They increase the maximum orbs of power from defeating targets while in the well from 4 to 5. Now, before I move on, any comments?
Nope.
I like the fact that it's more offensive. Now there may, we don't know all the details. There may still be enough defensiveness for like people that are at least average or better players if you're doing normal content. I'm more concerned about the damage reduction going down to 10% than I am the 50 resto ×2. But I like that Wells turning more to offensive because I always just didn't like that being a defensive thing. So I'm fine with this on that aspect. Just on the bigger meta point, I'm a little concerned how it'll play out with just some average crews on if we're going to have to do other things too to protect people, but that's yet to be seen.
So, I mean, I can see it being a problem for some groups, yes, especially in certain raids. But I know there's been talk, when you consider various encounters, how many encounters are we actually just standing in the well? And realistically, most of the time, you just want the well because of Radiance, because of that increased damage you get from it. Right?
I mean, I can think of at least a few where the people that just aren't careful right now or would die with a lower well, like War Priest, the end of Vault of Glass with all those ads there. I can think of several. Again, it really just depends on how good of a player it is and if they're used to like checking their health and moving around or whatever. But yeah, I could definitely see some issues come up.
Yeah, I could.
War Priest, whenever we don't have a well, we know how War Priest goes. It can be pretty scary. And it doesn't mean we won't have a well, but it'll be cut in half. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it also depends on where you're doing damage on War Priest, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. It's going to change encounters. It's seriously going to change rate encounters. But plus side, if that's, I mean, you're getting something from it still.
Bubble Titan. That's what you're getting from it.
We're not there yet, son.
Sin sounds excited.
So, moving on.
No. Bubble Titan. You're going to get it.
Ward of Dawn is meant to be a highly defensible safe haven for you and your team. Yada, 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 yada. So they're making a change to Ward of Dawn to provide defensive capabilities. More so, without just standing in it. So, change to Armor of Light. Removed Armor of Light Overshield. Ward of Dawn now immediately applies a full Void Overshield to the caster and allies that enter the dome. Good. Armor of Light now instead grants additional damage resistance to players inside the Ward of Dawn, which is 30% versus enemy players and 60% versus enemy combatants. Effective health of players inside Ward of Dawn remains roughly the same as it was before versus PvE combatants. Effective health of players inside Ward of Dawn is significantly lower than it was before versus players in PvP, which is good. They're tuning it completely separate from each other.
That is good. Yeah.
Oh, and they state that it cannot be increased by stacking Bastion barricades inside the ward to gain additional oversealed in PvP.
Well,
So,
that seems like duh to me, but it's good they mentioned.
no, that's a major problem in threes. It's like trials and comp.
Oh, okay,
If it's
okay.
a cap
For
point,
PvP, yeah.
yeah, so you can kill a Bubble Titan, but if you go in and they pop their barricade, that's an overshield on top of an overshield that makes them very difficult to kill.
Okay.
And doesn't it cast it to the whole team that's in there at the same time?
Yes, it's very hard to kill. Allies near Ward of Dawn will now have overshield trickled on over time, similar to the volume behind a Bastion barricade. Okay.
So that's cool. Even when
Right.
you're out of it, you'll have some protection.
As long as you're close to it, you'll gain it. No longer provides Weapon of Light by default. This behavior has been moved to the benefits of Helm of Satan 14, which is huge. Ward of Dawn caster can now generate additional orbs by defeating enemies with melee attacks in or near their Ward of Dawn dome. So, cool.
So, Sin, are you saying you're going to do this?
No, probably not.
Okay. Well, why are you so excited?
He's going to stick to his solar for the crutch.
Yeah,
Hey.
that's right.
I remember in D1, you often were doing that.
Bubble Titan for everybody? Yes.
Yeah. It's Wrath of the Machine. There's Sin.
Solar
with the
for a
bubble.
crutch, Mr. Golden Gun. Shut up.
It's not a crutch. That's damage.
Same difference.
So they do state that this is more of a 3v3 PvP thing. Supers are getting a kind of a rework. We're making changes to all supers with the final shape. All different types of supers will have different passive recharge times. All supers will now use the same damage-based rechargers. So intellect really means absolutely nothing now. So dealing a specific amount of damage to a specific enemy type will result in the same amount of super energy gained. Whereas previously that value could vary by about 30%. This effectively increased the real-world uptime of our roaming supers in the slowest recharge tier and reduced the uptime of our fastest recharge burst supers. So that's kind of a cool change. Subclass tuning. I start with Arc. It's a lot to go over.
TLDR it. Or whatever you want to talk about.
So it's kind of, they're just changing some cooldowns on things and changing damage resist, cooldowns, enemy damage. Like it's a lot. Certain aspects are kind of getting a change with certain grenades. Arc grenades are getting increased in PvE. That's cool. Arc fragments are getting changed. On the solar. big change there is throwing knives will no longer have a 1 second cooldown on knife refill. It'll be a lot shorter. Which doesn't mean much. For the hunter mates out there that run Star Raiders, this is what Rodimus was just giving shit about, is they're reducing the strength of orbs of power while running Marksman Golden Gun with Star Raiders. So no more chaining supers if you can ever find 6 hunters that want to run together. Nothing for Warlock on Solar. It's surprising.
Yeah.
Sunbreaker Titans, I don't know. Consecration is getting a buff, I guess. Hammer of Soul is also getting a buff. On to Void.
Nice.
Swarm Grenade is getting a buff. On Solar, sorry. It's actually kind of nice. Huh. Right, Void. Titans, your big one is Shield Throw. Now it gets 1 more bounce. A little bit longer uptime. Better tracking. That's going to suck. And increased damage to PvE targets by 20%.
I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, offensive bulwark. You can now only extend Void over Shield's timer to its normal maximum duration. I don't understand what that. Okay. Warlock. Pocket Singularity is getting a PvE buff by 50%.
I mean, that's something, at least. And the Nova Bombs are getting tuned.
Yep. Increased Seeker count, or so in Cataclysm variant, you get Seeker count from 4 to 6. Better tracking on the Seekers, I guess. I don't know. Increasing the Vortex Linger from 7 to 10. That's cool. Strand. Threat of Warding is getting a reduction. It's going from 10 to 5 seconds, so it's less uptime. Ensnaring Slam is getting a change, which it's a smaller radius, and it's like straight cylinder instead of a sphere now. It's interesting. Threaded Spike is getting a damage reduction. First players going from 79 to 70. Not much of a change, but enough to make a difference. Warlock. They've added a new behavior to Weaver's Call. That's sounds like a buff to me.
Sounds like a buff.
Grapple Tangles in Melee. This was kind of a rough one. So Grapple Tangles no longer fully refresh their duration 2. Now increases duration by a maximum of 5 seconds per grapple, reducing to a maximum of 1 second after 5 consecutive grapples to the same grapple tangle. So grapples will stay up longer, a little bit, but if it's grappled consecutively to it, essentially just disappears. Additionally, grapple melee will no longer be able to be used after firing your weapon. This is primarily intended to reduce the number of difficult-to-understand grapple melee deaths in Crucible, where players can grapple towards you, fire a single hand cannon shot, and then follow up with a grapple melee for a very fast cleanup. But it also reduces the number of melee damage stacking sources, which can spiral out of control very quickly. So, they're removing kind of the Strand Titan grapple melee 3 times grapple 3 times, it was putting out a lot of damage with Syntheseps. Venerivore is getting another nerf. Sorry, Titans.
That's one thing I never really used was Banner of War.
It's
Never got on that
pretty strong.
bandwagon.
I loved it.
It was
It's
nice. It was
nice.
fun.
Okay, that's pretty much all for ability tuning. We covered the armor tuning.
Yeah.
And now the twid.
The twid.
Anything specific?
I mean, I just want to talk about the new thing. They go over a lot of repeat stuff in here. Pathfinder.
Yeah, I was reading
So-
that.
June 9th, or June 7th through the 9th, you can earn 2 emblems by watching Twitch, yada, yada, yada. They remind you to go get your Brave weapons, just the drop. Or they buffed the drops last week. That was another thing. But Pathfinder, somebody take it away.
Sure. You want to RNG or should I?
You go right ahead. I was just now reading it. I was trying to understand
Look,
it.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go super detailed into here, but I just want to start with saying, like, it basically looks, first of all, what it looks like is kind of like a skill tree system. Now, it's not exactly a skill tree, but it's like a system that is replacing, well, 2 things. One thing, of course, is we learned bounties are going away for ritual activities. So for those, this is one version of Pathfinder that we're getting. And basically the idea is it's like this kind of tree system where you do certain things that may be a little more generic at first. They didn't want to give us too many examples yet or spoil things, but then you have a choice. Like, let's say maybe you're more into doing one thing versus the other, and then you have to unlock at least one node under each area before you can move on, I think. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So starting from left to right, you have to claim a single node going forward.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But as you get closer to the end, where you get your big reward, well, some of them aren't so big. We can talk about that too, but there's like less choices of things you can do. So I would imagine some of these are, especially for the ritual activities, some of these are going to be like focus more on strike things versus PvP things. But maybe by the time you get to the end,
So
if you're going to do PvE, it's going to be a lot harder than maybe if you did mixed it up. Or
right. So the way I'm looking at it is there's 6. You start out at 6, drops to 4, or drops to 5, 4, 3.
4, 3. Yep.
But it looks like, so out of the first 6, you have to pick which one you want to do. And then you can see, the next 5 that tie into that. So say you, like the example is they pick 2, well, that only gives you 2 to branch from there. And it looks like Gambit or Vanguard. And then it's kind of, it's the way I'm seeing it is when you start down 1, you kind of lock yourself to doing that same kind of activity each, which is kind of what we already do.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool that I guess the impression is that it'll still be a little bit more flexible on what we want to do versus bounties just saying like get 50 kills with this weapon,
Well, so to me, it looks like it's a combination of just going in and doing the activity like we do now to get our, powerful pinnacle, exotics, whatever. So they've changed that this last season. It's where you just go in and you run any 7 activities, 6 activities, whatever it is, 3, where you run just those activities, and whether it be Crucible Strikes or Gambit, you just run those 3 and done. You don't have to run each one individually. So it's like a combination of that plus like the season pass track, the weekly, and not the artifact, but the bright dust ones. Yeah,
bright dust ones. Yeah.
So to me, it's just a combination of like those 2 things. Like, start it, go play the activities you want, get your rewards. There you go.
It could be ultimately when we do this enough, it could be boring again. But they said there's some procedurally generated where each time you go through it, it's slightly different. I believe I read some line like that. They may not have used the word procedurally, but it'll kind of mix up some. But I think the biggest thing I'm excited about is that if I'm going to do anything, this looks way more interesting to me than picking up bounties, because with this,
Give me
you
my
don't have to pick
bounties.
them up and you don't have to check them off, right? So it's like, yes, we can do bounties in the app now, but we still have to claim them if we want to do them. This is just kind of like you do it, you know?
Well, I think this is a good way to rank things up too. Like looking at the rewards, like this is pretty. I don't want to say it's like super rewardable, but it seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is there's also going to be a Pathfinder for the new location, the new destination, the Pale Heart Pathfinder, along with this Ritual Pathfinder. And this is where I'm going to see myself hopping in a lot, at least at first, because this is going to be all the new stuff. They said they don't want to give away too much information, but there's going to be new location-based objectives called field assignments. So, you know, it's going to be a bunch of stuff to do right away. I don't think this is going to be quite the level of like when Forsaken first came out. We were so overloaded with new things to do, but I think this expansion has better potential to give us more to do than the last couple of years. I hope anyways.
Seems like a lot. And I'm a fan of the new Pathfinder system over the bounties for sure.
Nobody likes bounties.
No. You only had to do them because they were there. If you needed to do them for something.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Like-
still there for some of the vendors, just not the ritual ones. But maybe they'll take those ones away too by the next year.
I'm sure.
Now, some of the rewards for the destination one looks pretty good, but the ritual rewards look kind of lame to me.
Hey, that's pretty much what we're getting now. If you're doing the
I know.
bounties, like,
Yeah.
they've never been worth doing.
But if they want to get me in strikes and things, make them crazier, like more exotics or something. I don't know. I know we get some.
Well, they do state that so on weeks there's an active reputation booster. The first 3 instances of Pathfinder will contain more objectives associated with that ritual activity. So if Crucible is the reputation booster, Pathfinder will contain more Crucible specific objectives until after the 3rd reset. There you go.
Yeah, and when we're talking about reset, to be clear also, these Pathfinders will reset on their own each week. So if you don't finish something, they go back. But also you can do it more than once through each week. You can keep going and going and going.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But it also diminishes your rewards each time you reset it, I
Yeah.
think.
so it does. So the first 3 completions, you get a Prime Engram, Enhancement Prism, 150 Bright Dust, 25,000 XP. The next 7 completions after that are Enhancement Prism, 150 Bright Dust, 4,000 XP. And then subsequent completions is Enhancement Core, 30 Bright Dust, 4,000 XP. So if you run it 10 times, you should just stop. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I could see running it for the first 3 completions. I mean, that right there kind of makes it worth it. Especially the start of the, I guess we won't have seasons. We'll have stories? Right?
Episodes, they call them.
Yeah, episodes.
Episodes. So I could see that. If there's any sort of like artifact track like we have with seasons, I could see that aspect of it where you're going to want that 25,000 XP. Especially if you're trying to, they're giving you plenty of opportunity to be raid ready for Final Shape Raid. Like, it's right there. Here's how you do it. So,
Yeah. Especially the first 3, like you said, lots of XP but even the Bright Dust for the next 7 completions, if you like that Bright Dust, 150, and then after at 10 it goes down to 30 Bright Dust. Wah, wah.
yeah. Yeah. What else we got?
Well, the UI is changing some more with the quests tab.
Oh, yeah.
If we're ready to move on.
Right.
Yeah, I did read on that a little bit. They can favorite some things on there, move some things around. That's the TLDR.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just cleaning it up, making it a little more organized, easier to find stuff. I mean, it's a good change.
More information on starting screens of activities.
Yeah.
It's always good. Yeah.
They have redesigned the private map screen coming. That's cool. That's cool. Nice. Gonna make that quite a bit nicer to use to set up private matches. Use your legendary shards. Yeah.
I tried to.
I would like to point out that if you go to Rahul, your legendary shards, depending on how many you have and how you are on your other materials, you can buy prisms, shards, and alloys for glimmer plus the other materials associated with those. So if you have a bunch of enhancement cores, you could max out your prisms, max out your shards, and max out your alloys, and then just continuously buy prisms to make sure everything's capped out, because you can trade in your shards for glimmer. So currently I am maxed out on everything again. And I still have like 9,000 shards. So, and 600 rain banners. So I have no fucking clue what to go spend legendary shards on.
Pretty much nothing at that point.
Raid banners.
I already have 600 of them. I don't think I need more.
Is there a max?
Just space. They keep going 100
Yeah,
stacks.
yeah, a stack at 100 at a time.
Yeah, well, you're not maxed out yet.
I mean, just make sure you're just stocked up for on all materials, upgrade modules, enhancement cores. The only thing you can't buy is enhancement. Like,
Yes,
you have
Dad.
to earn those.
Why, Bungie? Why?
Yeah.
Kidding.
We start the nasty room where you can buy vault space with your legendary shards.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow.
I honestly, I wish I had more, like, I wish there was better things to spend your legendary shards on, but
You can always. Does it focus on your armor count use them anymore, or is it just glimmer?
I don't know. Hold on. Nope. Upgrading your armor still uses them, and upgrading weapons still uses them, I do believe.
Gotcha.
But it's such a minuscule amount too. Like, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot.
Well, I'm not going to stress out too much. I got a bunch of raid banners, but people should at least do that if they have a lot of legendary shards. And even if you don't raid a lot, just assume down the road you might buy a bunch of raid banners.
Never
At least
hurts to have banners. Yeah. I mean, I burnt through like 4,000 legendary shards just stocking up on materials. I don't know what else to spend them on, so I'm hoping we can still trade them in for glimmer, but I think they stated that they are just going away completely, and there's not going to be any way to spend them whatsoever.
I think so. Yeah, after the fact. Because we could always use more glimmer at the beginning of a season or an expansion.
Right.
All right. What else do we have?
If
Anything.
Final week at Pantheon this year. Let's see. We have Riven and Nezarec this week.
I love reading the lore on Nezarec.
They give us info cards on that. There's a poster. Which is actually really cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's a pretty cool poster. And that's the display poster. Okay. That's kind of fucking cool. Might actually
cool.
buy that.
All the Pantheon raid bosses, right?
Yep. All of them.
Yep.
So we have Golgoroth, Oryx, Caretaker, Atrax, Nezarec, Rolk, Zarok, and then Riven. It's pretty cool. I want to see how much this thing cost.
3,000. No, I bet it's 200.
I'm not really sure.
I don't think they said you can order it until tomorrow.
Okay.
24th, as we're recording on the 23rd.
Gotcha. I did not see that part of that. Oh, yeah, May 24th. Oops. Somebody made a 3D printed Trevor. Or Lego Trevor, sorry.
Lego, yes.
I didn't watch the video, but now I'm going to.
Lego Trevor is coming for you, Sin.
Oh, that's
Giggity.
cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, the feet is kicking up too.
Mm-hmm. Lots of videos.
I mean,
Do it,
speaking
Trevor.
of, since last time we talked, did we talk about 0 Hour yet coming out?
No,
our last
we
podcast?
have not.
That's because Kato and I ran it.
Yeah, Sin wanted to run it before we even talked about it.
Yes.
We'll talk about it now, Sin.
Oh, it's exactly what I remember. Normal, pretty easy going. Legend is rough. That was very reminiscent of how it was originally. Struggling to finish the time during the boss phase, clearing every single ad.
Well, and worse now too, because we have the Brig version of him. We didn't have that before.
Right? But I enjoyed it. I ended up running Legend again after that with one of my buddies from work, and him and his friend tried to run it, just the two of them, and they couldn't do it. We ended up getting through it. We actually had more time left over now that I had a little bit more experience with it than the first time when I ran it. But it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
So I think it was Ed pointed it out that once you get into the vault, the pressure plate room, like that whole thing, that changes depending on the burn. And I did not know that. So I had been super lucky, apparently, every time I'd ran it on Legend across the first week, that it was the same pattern every time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I didn't run it when it was around the first time, so it was very interesting going in and just figuring it out, and then okay, here's the timer. Let's run it on Legend and going through it, and oof. I can honestly say that I am not going to run it on Legend this week. I'm going to wait till next week, because there's really no point in running it every week, honestly. I mean, Outbreak is good, but this week the first week we got Rapid Hit. This week we got Headseeker as the other craftable perk, and then this next week we'll get Rewind Rounds as the next perk. So it's like, yeah, you might as well just wait.
Yeah. Very true. And since it is more of a pain,
Mm-hmm.
just wait. And stock up on them or do them when do them on the weeks that are worth it.
Right. Do you guys think they should have increased the legend timer? Or do you think it's fine?
I think
Couldn't
they should
tell
have by a couple minutes. I mean, at first I would have said 25 versus 20, but then that would make it too easy. But maybe like by 3 minutes or so. The thing is it feels about as hard enemy-wise as it did back then, although we have even slightly better tools to take down the ads now. But the last room with the brig and stuff and the extra little bombs that come down from the sky, I get what they're going with. It's good that they're making it harder, but it's just right at that edge where it's just a little too hard for an average to slightly above average player to do with anything better than like a 3 stack that are all hitting it perfectly. In the past, you could even have like 2 people that were pretty good and get it done, but that's going to be much harder now.
Right.
I think they should increase it just a little bit. I'm not saying make it a lot easier, but the thing that I noticed when I finally got it done, and thanks to Kato and Ed, but because I never got it done originally, well, I did, but Bo Solaris did a carry, and I was still jumping around the outside of the tower because that was only my second time trying it back then. Not a lot of people were getting it done. Anyways, getting it done, and this makes sense, but yeah, you have to be fast through the whole running part and not mess up, hopefully. But when we finally, when I finally got it done, it was really what helped out was getting those first 2 rooms cleared out super, super fast. You may say, duh, right? But like, I noticed when on my run where he got it done, and we got there with a lot more time than normal, it was only because I wasn't that much faster on the jumping puzzle. It was because we got the ads cleared faster in the first 2 rooms. At least that's what I imagine.
Yeah.
I definitely agree that by adding the Brigiam, it almost makes it's almost a bit much for, like you said, the average player, maybe even slightly above average. Because we've gotten there, and just the 2 of us can burn through getting the boss to move around, getting him to the brig. But once that brig comes in, it's just like you're kind of fucked, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes, anyways.
It's a bit much. Again, it's just so inconsistent with these 2 missions were coming out together. And then Bungie's saying we made to do it this way. Well, the legend thing doesn't even bother me that much as like how much harder they made it on normal. But then why are they making this mission so much different than Whisper? Why didn't they make Whisper harder also? Or I don't know. Right. It's just all inconsistent in my book.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, if you think back to the Avalon mission for Vexcalibur, that was just like a night and day difference between any other exotic mission. It was like, well, this is way harder, especially with 3 people, than any other mission at the time. So it's kind of like, well, that was the inconsistency there. And now we have this one back, and comparatively, I don't know how it is compared to Avalon or any of the others. It definitely seems harder than it necessarily should be, but then I don't know. Like I said, it's just very inconsistent with the other exotic missions we have.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Well, yeah, we talked about 0 Hour now also. Anything else we want to talk about? I have another topic, but it doesn't need to be tonight. We're about in an hour here, so unless you guys really want to talk about it, but
let's do it.
Steel Series Collection. Final Shape, 24-hour downtime.
Touch grass.
Yeah.
Destiny 2 will be brought offline for 24 hours starting at 9 a.m. Pacific time on June 3rd. Players will be reminded of the downtime in-game and via our social media, yada, yada, yada. So please, people, Jesus. Player support report. Pony error codes. That's a thing. Protect yourself. We put a message in the game about it.
Sin, you can start singing the song. Pony.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I'll start
reminder
sending
to
some more friend requests, or not friend requests, clan requests.
claim your seasonal rewards, content vault updates, certain things. They did give us a list of that. There's a link. You can click on it to show you really everything that is going the way. Nothing else there. And then art. Here you go.
Excellent. Well, I'm stuffing my face with food.
Do it.
Often you're doing that, Sin, right?
Yeah.
Live update. Are you playing the game?
Yeah, I'm collecting my stuff from 801, the catalyst for Outbreak, that new quest for it, doing my Archie stuff, and completing some of the Brave weapons that I haven't done. I did get 50 Shades of Onslaught done while we were talking there.
Nice. Rodimus, RNG, anything else you'll want to talk about this evening?
Nope, just got some new alpha playtests I'm going to be doing here next week or two, waiting for Destiny.
I see you guys just released an episode with Hammer Crasher.
No,
TPS?
the ongoing joke is he keeps asking where our podcast is at. So
I see. I
letting
read
him know
that
that it's
wrong.
out.
Sorry. But you do have a new episode out. Duck-sized horses.
Correct.
Oh, my God.
Oh Lord.
So, sorry not to change the topic, but these disc plates really aren't that expensive.
Ooh, what have they been?
So they're like average around 50.
Okay.
That's way cheaper than I actually thought.
Yeah, then this one I'll most likely buy because this is quite the experience with Pantheon.
It definitely has been.
I think we should talk about that more next week, right?
Potentially. But you had a
finish it first.
hot topic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to spend a lot of time. So basically, let me bring up my notes here. Okay. There was a question, actually, this was about Pantheon in another Discord, and it wasn't ours, wasn't necessarily any Discord that we're friends with. I just wanted to bring this up, just kind of hide that. But basically, there was some advice being given about how hard Pantheon was because the person was asking, like, how is it and stuff. So some people gave some advice, and the person took it personally because they were thinking that they were saying that, oh, it's too hard for you to do. When really I knew that people just meant like, well, it's hard based on what you've told us and for an average player and this and that. So it got me thinking how best we can give advice. Now, I know this may seem like a silly topic, but and when we're writing stuff in Discords, it can be hard, right? It's talking in person's always easier than writing out. But at the same time, I think there's some things we can learn from this because what are some things that we can teach people about raiding as Sherpas? And I feel like there's still a lot of misconceptions about how raiding can go. Now, first of all, go back and listen to Kato and I were on an episode of Destiny Help Desk where we talk about getting into raiding. But this is just kind of like a follow-up quick couple points that I was thinking of recently. And, one example can be, there's like two sides to this, like starting advice for like people that don't have a lot of experience, but then also I feel like sometimes people that are really good players can give bad advice too, and I'll get to that in a second. But, we need to let people know that sometimes we have to use certain weapons and certain abilities, i.e. at least right now. Now, this applies in lower end raids, and it can apply in higher end raids too. And yes, you would think in theory in normal raids you can use whatever you want. Of course, you don't have to run well. But in but in practice, it's not always that easy. Raids have 6 players, so more things can go wrong, and there's more variables in the mix with that many people. Teams will only be as strong as their least experienced player. So it's normal in raids to have to sometimes run a build that support each other's and keep them alive. This is nothing that groundbreaking. Other games have this too. You kind of need to have support people to help the players in your team, especially when you're raiding. Yeah, I hate running well myself, but I often find myself, when I'm the only warlock, needing to run well, depending on the crew and everyone's ability. So first on that point, what do we think, right? Isn't it kind of good that people need to realize that certain weapons, certain builds are actually semi-required in raiding, depending on who you're running with?
Yes. Depending on who you're running with and what you're running. That's a huge factor in... Well, honestly, hold on.
Because we're supporting each other. We're helping each other out.
Right. So that's more of a factor of how much time do you...
Oh, yes, right.
So if you've got, 4 or 5 hours to put into it, just run it. You'll probably eventually get it done. You'll figure things out. But if you're limited on the amount of time, be prepared to change up your build a little bit. Be prepared to, I guess, be more of a team player to maximize things. I give Ed a hard time about it all the time. About make sure you're running a siphon mod. Generate orbs. Orbs are very important to a lot of builds. And if if you're doing majority of the ad clear and you're not making orbs, you're kind of screwing the rest of your team.
Mm-hmm. It was always an easy discussion, even back from D1. Like, people would be like, okay, we kind of know you got to run certain weapons during DPS, or else if you don't, you don't have to, of course, but if you don't, you're going to have more DPS phases. If you don't, you might wipe the whole encounter, because more DPS phases equal the chance of more people dying to get to another DPS phase.
Now, I don't necessarily believe in the fact of, you have to have this weapon, it has to have this role, yada, yada, yada. There are a lot of good weapons out there that can substitute in for just about every single thing of content. But when you get into that more of the in-game stuff, like Pantheon, Master Raids, Master Dungeons, you're stepping away from the just run, here's your selection weapons, just run one of these. These will work. These are fine. You're stepping more into, you need, this weapon, you gotta have, not necessarily have, but you really want it with this role, this perk, this, things like that.
Yeah. But look, I think even in normal raids, we don't have to have a divinity, or we don't have to have a well, but if you're not going to, then depending on the crew, that's really going to set you back a lot if you don't run those things. So I guess my point is, think about, if you are the newer player or also someone trying to train, like you're a Sherpa, think about this as helping other people out. You're trying to get something accomplished, and it may not be something you want to run ideally, but it can help out the team.
Right.
All right. Next point real quick, and there's just 2 points here. Another thing that's been on my mind is, and this is just a bigger point in general, but when really good players say that something is easy. Okay. I can't even remember how many times I've seen YouTube videos say stuff like, guaranteed stay alive with this build, or easy master clear with this. While not all of these are over dramatized, I do feel like many good higher end players don't really have a good understanding of what an average player's ability is like. They just forget, or maybe they never were at that level. They just can't understand it. They can't proc it. Sometimes they'll even get frustrated with those players, but more so they just don't account for a strat that an average player could handle. They may say something is easy and it should only take an hour, when in reality, there's no way an average that would happen. So what are our thoughts on that? I'm getting close to 1,000 raids, and I consider myself a B+, A- player. raider. And I feel like I have a really good ability to understand average players' abilities. So I kind of know like what an average player can do. But I just have this gut feeling there's some really good players out there that have no idea what average players are like, and they just think things should always be easy. So how can we help with that, maybe?
That's your bar lower.
No, it shouldn't be that. But I kind of get what you're saying, Sin. But
So this is something I know I myself am guilty of, like jumping into various just like random pickup groups throughout the Discords. And then I have to remind myself that raiding is just what I normally do. I do a little bit of like, it's either I raid or I PvP. That's like all I end up doing. And most of the time it's just hanging out. But I've jumped into those pickup groups. Like a common one is Nezarec farming, because everybody wants conditional finality. So you got, 4 guys in there that have never touched the encounter. And then it's like you have to take a step back and go, okay, they don't know the encounter. So they're making these little mistakes because nobody's ever taken the time, or they've never jumped into it before and had somebody actually explain the encounters to them. So it's, as a Sherpa and somebody that raids all the time, you have to take a step back and just kind of breathe a little bit and just more or less just chill out. Like give them tips, give them pointers, don't try and take on too much as an individual, because then you're just going to get frustrated and upset. Like,
true. Yeah, I love that point, Kato. And then also, I think sometimes the people that put out videos do a little bit of harm because they say easy. It's easy to farm Nezarec. I mean, easy is so relative. I just feel like we shouldn't even use that word because it's too vague of a meaning. Yes, it can be easy once you get some experience, but then was it really easy because it wasn't easy at the very beginning? I don't know. Anyways, so people that don't know any better that want to just farm Nezarec. We heard it's easy, and then they jump in, right? And then we run into issues. So,
and then you spend 2 hours in there and 1 completion. Yeah. It happens quite a bit because I agree. There's definitely content creators out there that will, it's clickbait. They want the views. They post the video. People jump in with these expectations that, oh, this is easy. This content creator said it was easy. Well, yeah, for them it is. For some people it is. For your average player that's never touched a raid, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, good topics. Yeah, and we don't have to go too much longer tonight. Sin, I consider you at least a B+ raider.
Yeah, maybe C-.
Yeah, I was gonna say C-.
I say, fuck, if you're a C-, I'm like an E. So.
I'm probably honestly a B+. I used to maybe be an A- raider, but
well, and it's really hard to because each raid is so different. They're still very similar. It's still a 6-person activity. There's still mechanics you have to learn. And a lot of the mechanics are very similar between the raids.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
For the most part, they are.
But yet again, if you're not jumping in and you're not doing those raids, it's hard to pick those mechanics up sometimes.
Yeah, and let alone all the other things that can go wrong because, my high horse is always like mechanics can be learned, but a lot of people don't even have they haven't learned the ability how to play their life, find cover and things like that.
Right. Or they don't really have a build that really helps you stay alive. Like, you want to be able to do damage, so you want to run things that'll help you with damage, but at the same time, you also want to have your build set up just for staying alive. Void's great for staying alive. Doesn't really matter the subclass because of Devour.
And find what works for you. I've been playing myself with a lot of builds, especially in Pantheon, where I'm like, okay, do I want to go like full healing nade or a more offensive build? Right. And I always prefer to go offensive if I can, because that means I feel like that's a better level, higher level. If you can take down the ads quicker and stay alive that way, that's better than having to rely on healing nades. Right. But there are times where you have to do that too.
Well, for me, it comes down to there's too much in the game. There's too much loot. There's too much abilities. There's too many like the artifact mods. There's too much.
A lot.
There's
a
way
lot to
too
keep
much.
track of.
And going into raids, and if you're somewhat can listen and comprehend what's going on, but you got to be open to the feedback. And most people don't like the feedback that's given to them from experienced players, but at the same time, the experienced players don't have to be dicks about it either. So, and I think there's a fine line in between it. Say, hey, my suggestion is you need to use this. Try this out. It's all about the words that you use and say, do you have a linear? No. Okay. What's your next best weapon? And kind of inspect them before you commit to anything. Like, if I say I wanted to go do a raid, I should be inspected before that person even commits to taking me to a raid or asking me the questions. Do you have this weapon? Do you have that weapon? What is your light level? Are you comfortable taking feedback? And there should be these expectations where people join these communities and they think they're looking for group communities when therefore most of them are not. They're just a community to hang out that enjoy playing the game. But when you're taking that new person on the raid, I don't think from the experienced raiders there's enough follow-up before committing to shepherding that person.
I like that, Rodimus. Okay, I like that feedback. I feel like some of us, and at least I used to do that a little bit more, but even in our communities here,
we've stopped doing it.
People would just not respond to that or not have time for it, or they would even get frustrated. And yeah, you could say, well, you try to force it down their throat more. But for me, at least my personality, there's only so much I do where it's like, sometimes it's like they almost need to see, like if I tried to talk to them at the beginning, they're like, no, yeah, okay, whatever, we're going now. And then they'll start to learn when things aren't working out. And then they'll start to listen to my advice of, changing up loadouts and stuff. But that being said, you're right, Rodimus. We could do better with trying that a little more on the front end for sure.
Like, prime example, someone the other day joined the looking for group, or joined a group that came in, hey, I need 2 people for Nezarec. It took him 2 hours. The guy's like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to learn. He got in there and like, okay, you just need to add clear. He's not learning Nezarec. He's just add clear.
Yeah, it's not learning anything. See, that's something.
But I guess it depends on who's shepherding your raids, and like even for the new
or how much
person,
time they have.
Well,
They could have talked about it. Yeah.
But how does a
Sorry,
new person know? How does a new person know that, like you, for example, have these thousands of raids under your book? There's no way of knowing unless you send them your raid report. They don't know the difference between you and Kato, or you and Sin and Kato, or you, Sin, Ed, and Kato. All 3 of you would shepherd way differently in any of the raids based on your viewpoints and what even the classes you're playing. Where like,
sure. Yeah,
Kato plays a hunter 95% of the time, if not 99% of the time. A hunter really can't help. Well, he was on his Titan the other day, so that's why I'm giving him shit.
What?
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
What? Whoa, when was this?
But as a hunter, you really can't help someone or give them the survivability in a raid because you're just a DPS cannon, where the Warlock, to me, is the ultimate Sherpa class because you can keep people alive easier than Titans or Hunters. Unless you run in a Void Titan.
Well, it's still a very valid point, though. Is like the point is like the way I'm interpreting this is, if I'm helping with a Sherpa, I'm there to help pick up the damage, help pick up the DPS, help pick up the encounter. So if you can just stay alive, we can make up for that damage. But whereas if Kingsley's in the raid, he's going to be able to keep people alive, I would assume, because, there's a well, there's a rift, there's healing needs going out, there's all sorts of things that happen with a Warlock. It's just a lot more convenient from bringing new people through a raid versus me just bringing new people in because I get a single healing nade. That's what you get. Like,
Yeah. On that point, you know what I used to do too? I remember a couple times, but it just takes so much time. And usually 90% of the people do not have patience for this. But I remember in Val, the first encounter, I did like a full Sherpa once. I was like, come over with me over here. The ads are going to spawn right here. So if you can take them out quickly right here, you'll probably stay alive better. Okay, follow me over here now. This is going to happen over here. And I feel like it's probably more fault on the Sherpa side, but there is some blame all around where people just have less attention span these days and just want to get going on things that no one has time for, like a 20-minute explanation or whatever, you know.
I mean, that is part of it too.
Like for me, I
Go
would
ahead.
love to go do Pantheon. I just know I don't have the time to invest into it. So
Right.
therefore I
Yeah.
sat it out, right? And that I experienced the 1 week, and that's fine by me. I'm not going after the title. I don't need the title. Would it be nice to have it? Yes. But this time of the year, I just don't have the time to commit to that.
Right.
So and that wouldn't be fair to like if I went to a dedicated group. Now, if I'm on and you guys are short one, it's a totally different game. I'll jump in and help. But the expectation for me is that I don't need for that kind of stuff. Yeah, boy, I like to be carried with the changes a little bit to learn what the changes are. I know all the fight encounters. Ralk still confuses the shit out of me, but that's just another day. But that's fun. But my interest of learning those mechanics in that raid, because I don't like that raid to begin with, I'm going to be less likely to be involved with any of that.
Mm.
Sure. Wow. Yeah, I love all the input. I didn't think it would even be this much, so I'm glad we were talking about that. Anything you wanted to add, RNG?
Oh, you're
No, that's
still
good.
here?
Not really.
Just want to make sure you
Yeah,
weren't
I'm
left
still here.
out.
I just was listening.
Yeah.
No, I'm just listening.
Well,
I've just been listening.
I am.
I mean, I raid. I'm not much raid as much as you guys do, but I mean, I know you gotta have. I mean, if it's gonna work, you gotta be willing to listen to the Sherpas. If it's not working, to say, hey, you need to, like Kato said, change your build, change what weapons you're using, so we can do more DPS and get by it or
Right.
something. Yeah. I mean, you can't go in there and say, I'm going to use this. This is all I'm going to use. Well, if that's all you're going to use, and eventually you go hit to a point where the raid ain't going to get done, and you go have to go find somebody else to do it with. You know,
Depending, but yeah, the overall point is valid. Yeah.
depending on your makeup.
So that's
yeah.
actually kind of another topic when it comes to like weapons and DPS. Like there are so many options for damage right now. It's not just linears anymore. It's not just machine guns. It's not just rockets. It's everything has been buffed and balanced. It's certain counters and certain raids. It's better to have a certain weapon, and other encounters you can use something completely different. You can have a whole fire team using various things, and it's working really well. That's one of the things I've really enjoyed about Pantheon is it's, we've always used this certain weapon for Golgroth. We've always used linears and machine guns or this. Pantheon, we're using grenade launchers. Like, it's just this part of it's because of the surge. But the other side of that is like we're rethinking these encounters because you have to now.
The surges have been one of the best things about Pantheon, in my opinion, because it reminds me of remember Sin, like the old Eater World and those raids. They had different it was more weapon loadouts, but still the points valid with. I want to keep this. I want them to keep this going with different surges in the raids. It kind of forces us to try different loadouts week to week.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that's why they're doing this as a test.
It'd be cool.
Too.
Bring back Leviathan with surges.
Sure. Whatever.
I did see, I think it was a YouTube short about, it was, talking about and discussing, optimal DPS versus your average DPS and the difference between the two. And this is something I've said for a while now, is even before the change to bait and switch, when it was still at that 35% increase. Bait and switch is great. It was a massive damage increase, but it was a lot of rotation, and you had to get the timing down perfect. And your average raider is not going to do that when it's so much easier to put a single weapon on and just hold the trigger.
Yep.
Like,
There's things like that. There's
number wise, they were testing. I don't remember. It was Thunderlord versus like I don't remember what the other weapon was, but it was something bait and switch, and the damage numbers were like 200,000 difference, maybe. So in your average raid, 200,000 in damage isn't going to make or break. It's not that big of a deal. All you got to do a little bit extra phase, no big deal. Harder content, that's a big difference.
Yeah. And that's always a big thing too. Even on normal raids, when I've been bringing crews through, it's like you got to set the line of like, okay, how many damage phases can we get this done in? Because if it's like looking like it's pretty constantly like just barely a 3-phase, then then that's when you can have a discussion. It's more worth having the discussion of like, let's optimize our loadout so we can get this to a 2-phase.
Right.
But if it's going to be like a hard 3-phase, then you're probably not going to get it down to a 2-phase. But
right,
at least with the normal group. But yeah,
it's like when we were doing the raid races, right? We practice and practice and practice to get a lot of the bosses down to a 1-phase. 1-phase Nezarec. We got Rolk down to a 1-phase. But then when it came down to it, it's like, the RNG wasn't with us this time. We didn't get the 1-phase. Like, it was just little things like that. So, like you said, there's a time when it comes down to, okay, it's barely a 3-phase. We can optimize and make this a little bit better instead of going into that 3-phase.
Yeah. And just to loop back at the very beginning again, though, like this Pantheon thing has been amazing. I'm glad Bungie does it. They don't often put out super hard content for the players that like that. I know sometimes people are like, why are they doing this? They're gatekeeping the content. I'm like, come on, dude. Every game has hard stuff. That's as long as Bungie's not making the ratio really high, like 40% of the stuff in the game is the hard stuff, then people can be upset. But let Bungie do this thing that's kind of just for harder stuff. But what I'm sad about is how this got people wanting to raid, but it wasn't a good thing for them to go into. And a lot of people got disappointed. I'm like, oh, people, we would have loved to take you through raids all along. So why were they getting interested all of a sudden? I think because it was a new thing and Bungie was promoting it.
Well, I don't think so much that it was necessarily new, but it's because of the loot from it.
Yeah, okay. That's a good point too.
So, okay, week 1 Pantheon, right? 4 encounters, 500 light, you get adept weapons out of it. So versus you go into a master raid where you have to do the raid challenges to get the adept weapon, which would you rather do? Because master raid's 20 under.
So people would have to know that they want all that loot. I could see people maybe wanting the exotic too, right? If they don't have that yet.
Plus the exotic, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but realistically, if you have 4 raid encounters, and all you have to do is hit the platinum time and the platinum at 5 under, and you get 4 adept weapons, it's worth it.
Yeah. And that first week is still fairly doable for people hearing this. Pantheon should be going one more week. I'm hoping a lot of us, once we kind of finish up with this last hardest week, if we have time, we'll try to get some more crews through. And then it kind of makes me sad that it's going away. So hopefully Bungie can do more stuff like this in the future with raids. I don't see why they shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm going to be sad if I miss it.
I'm a little disappointed it's going away. But I like the aspect of the time crunch. Like, you have this set amount of time to get the title done.
It's the wrong time of the year for it, though.
I can kind of agree that it's necessarily like it's the wrong time of year, but it's still. I almost wish that there was a mode where you could select, like, if you wanted the harder difficulty or if you wanted an easier difficulty, where the only difference was light level.
Now, do you think we only got? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, it just if if you could select between, 5, 10, 15, 20 under, but that was the only difference, and then the rewards would be different. You wouldn't get your adept weapons for doing the easy mode, but you could still go in and experience Pantheon. I think that would have been cool, because it is a lot of fun if you take away the stress of being underpowered. The changes they've made to the encounters have made it's actually fun. Like, the changes make it just enough different, and it keeps you on your toes. Like, there's no just stand here, shoot this ad, do this, do this. You're constantly moving, you're constantly doing things.
Yeah, very true. I have hope that they'll do something like this, hopefully soon. But who knows? Maybe they're going to be busy with so many other things.
What was your question, Rodimus?
So do you think, okay, so yes, obviously Pantheon is new and it's fun. But if you come to think about it, we may have never gotten this if they didn't delay the new expansion.
This is true.
So I think this is Bungie trying to get the fan base back in for the new expansion. Because if we had the expansion, there's no way in hell I believe this would ever show up.
That's a very good possibility.
Yeah. And on that point, Into the Light has been a pretty good amount of content, way better than I thought it was going to be, especially when you compare 30th anniversary, before that.
It's like Rodimus said, I think they're trying to get their player base back. But
they did a good job.
They did. I've been impressed, honestly.
It was kind of dead in January, February?
Yeah.
Well, it was almost like a ghost town dead.
But Into the Light was like a hit with everything. Onslaught.
Well, and like Rodimus said,
missions.
it's kind of the wrong time of year. Because, you have graduations. Like, it's just that time of year. People are leaving for summer vacations. It's a lot.
It is, but they couldn't have planned it, I guess. Any other time,
Well, they planned it, but
They didn't plan it being delayed, and then when it was delayed, they planned to do stuff with the delay.
right. I definitely hope we get something like Pantheon in the future. I hope they mix it up a little bit. I hope they don't add a title to it, honestly. And I'm not trying to say that just for gatekeeping purposes, but like, if they do add another title, what would they add, kind of thing?
Yeah, it was already done. It's like this probably was a one-time thing as far as the title goes, but the idea is still good with having more options of raids.
Especially on the loot aspect of it. Like, to me, that just makes it worth it. Which, honestly, it's not going to matter much with things are changing with Final Shape. We have, non-craftable weapons are going to have enhanceable perks on them. It's a huge thing. So adept weapons and craftable weapons aren't as important, or won't be as important, but it's still a good source to go in and get those. And then, that was something that was changing from last week, is they're depreciating certain mods, or weapon mods. Forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Boss spec, major spec, adept big ones, minor spec, take it spec. Yeah, they're getting rid of a bunch of mods, and that's where all the weapon buffs are coming in. So,
yeah.
Is there a point to farm the last boss in Pantheon right now?
To farm Nezarec? No.
Well, I'm just looking at the raid report, and this one guy's got 449 clears of patrons. But it looks like he's just farming one boss, and he's got 421 H-Cracks cleared.
he may just be bringing people through on carries real quick on both
But
of
it's
those.
just, but it's just Atrax. He's got 400.
Well,
He's only got 15 Oryx. He's only got 9 Ralks. He's only got 4 Nezerax.
but Atrax actually is one of the harder ones for getting the score.
Yes. Atrax is a harder one to get the score on. And on top of that, so I think, don't quote me because I'm not sure, because I have all the weapons crafted already, but I think every completion you get the chance of red borders. But I'm not sure. So if he's just doing carries for Atrax, I mean, that's a huge thing, honestly, because that is a pain in the ass one.
And he's got 421 clears on Atrax.
Nezrak makes a little less sense unless people got all the way to the end and couldn't get it done, and then maybe
He's
just
got 4
doing carries for that. Okay.
I bet he's just doing the carries on Atrax.
Yeah.
Because that's we spent last weekend 2 hours there trying to get the score.
Yeah. It's annoying.
like-
It's very easy to get close to it, but not
just
just
miss it.
500. Yeah.
It's one of those, you either have to one floor it super fast or you have to like multi-floor it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Do it fast or do it long. Right, Sen?
Booty, 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 rocking everywhere.
Oh, good discussion, everyone. Thank you.
mhm.
And hopefully we'll have more to talk about that next week.
Hoping so.
Yes, with that, let's close up here. I do want to thank everyone who was in the live show. Remember, we record most Thursday nights around 9 p.m. Eastern, plus or minus. And want to thank everyone in our Patreon, and I'll read the names out next week for sure. But thank you. We really appreciate the support. It helps us with paying for some of the bots like the Me6 and different things like that. And we appreciate all our hosts here. Well, let's go down the line. RNG, thank you for joining. Anything you want to say?
Nope, not really. I ain't got nothing. I think we've talked about
Find
tonight,
you
so I don't
in
have
the
anything else
Discord.
to add to it. Yep, pretty much Discord, and you find me on Twitter. But Discord, if I have time to respond back, I'll try.
Rodimus, really appreciate having you here. Good discussion with the rating stuff. Where
No
can people
problem.
find you?
You can find me throughout the Discords. You can mainly find me over at the Space Mafia Discord. Come check us out. Just released a new episode of Dudes Playing Stuff. This top 10 list got some people tilted, so should be a good listen for you.
Definitely give that a listen. I'm excited too. Yep. Kato, Master Raider, thanks for joining. Where can people find you?
In the Discord. That's pretty much it. I'm in all of them.
Yep.
Just at me. I'm around.
At Kato if you want to carry for last week Pantheon. Just kidding.
We're just at Kato anywhere you can find in the Discord.
Yes, where Kato's running away from Sen because he's all up in his DMs.
Yeah.
Sen, are you behaving yourself? Where can people find you?
They can find me running around the Dreaming City trying to find Archie or the Discord. Next to you, all of you lovely gents now. Kingsley, Master of Surges. Take it out.
Yes, and you can find me as Kingsley Mac all the places, but more importantly, you can find out information about our show, where to help us out on Patreon, how to join the Discord, through our lovely website, theguardianhub.com.
The best hub on the net.
Thank you, Sin. Very lovely this week. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will catch you all again next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Gator's here. We just finished up, but we're doing After Dark right now. But
Gator.
Gator is in the
the
audience.
Gator.
The other Gator, the old man.
Old man
Gator.
Gator.
Wow, old man Gator.
Love you, Gator. Oh, Furiosa's good. I'm excited to see that one.
Yeah, I have a feeling it looks like it'll be a good movie.
Did you find it yet, Sin?
This is
I'm
off
coming
the
to you.
path.
Are you in the main first zone though? Don't go to
You
another
just
zone.
watched Furiosa? I just watched Dune 2.
I haven't
Oh,
watched
love
any of
Dune
them.
too.
He
Yeah, you're in
has
the right
time
spots.
to go to the movies, okay?
He's retired.
Exactly. He has time.
He's retired. Todd is not retired.
He's
just
ignoring
old.
us. That's what he's doing.
For the Queen.
Furiosa's better than
of
Dune 2. Well, I really like Dune 2. I think better than you did, but I'm sure Furiosa will be good also.
Not mic'd up.
And then it's back over here, Sin.
See, I bet you he went to his favorite burger joint and to the movies tonight.
Creature of habit much? The burgers are always good.
Backyard burgers.
See, told you.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
When you find a good burger joint, though, it's hard not to go back.
Of course, yeah.
I've been to one with him. Not Burger Five. We didn't. He didn't go to the one I went with to him, and when I was in Florida with, that was a good place too. So it did.
Yeah, if anyone ever comes out here, Lucky Roadhouse Burgers is the best one in Utah. I'll take you guys too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, next week we're going to be talking about the bullshit rumor, or I don't know if it's a bullshit rumor, but the rumor that's going around right now that Microsoft's trying to buy Steam.
Oh,
Oh,
saw a little bit about
Probably.
that, but I wasn't too interested.
But the antitrust lawsuit right now with Valve and Steam is bringing out emails between the CEOs and the COO of Epic and Valve. But we're also by Microsoft monopolizing the game studios and shutting down the smaller studios to force the content they want you to play.
Yeah, fuck it. I got a mic.
Fuck it. You're here.
So-
Gator?
Hey, look, hey, look, technology.
Oh,
gets
give
away
me a
from him.
break.
Every now and then he figures it out.
No, I literally just got home, just took the dogs for a walk. Holy crap,
Makes me want
Furiosa.
one.
There's a
Holy
notepad on
crap,
your
Furiosa
computer.
was so good. In fact, when the movie ended, I knew exactly when it ended. I said, damn good movie, and we walked out.
What is
that
it
good?
about?
It's actually it's an origin story of Furiosa,
prequel, ain't
how
it?
she got captured.
Yeah.
I won't give too
Yeah.
much away, but it's
It's a Mad Max saga. Hi.
it's in
Yeah.
5 parts. It's a
Yeah, it's
5-part
Mad Max,
movie.
yeah.
Five tales, and it's damn good. Damn good.
This is the second one.
Yeah,
in
it's the one that
5 parts,
actually
right?
ties right in nicely with Furiosa, the last one. Actually, I got to go back and watch Furiosa now because I
Right.
can't remember how that ended. Do anybody remember how it ended?
You mean the one with
Yeah,
Charlize
with Charlize
Theron in
Theron.
it and everything? Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah.
It
Wait,
actually
that was
shows
called Furiosa? I thought that was called something
that was
else.
Fury Road.
Fury.
No, that was
Fury,
called
okay.
Mad Max.
If you watch
Max,
Fury
I thought.
Road,
Yeah, I saw
that.
it explains more of where she came from. I'll leave it at that.
I do want to watch that one again, so I'll probably watch that one again.